ARE Podcast, episode number 17.
Welcome to the ARE Podcast. Where it's all about encouraging and inspiring you today so you can fulfill your dream of becoming a licensed architect tomorrow. And now your host, who used to play Zork on an Apple IIe in the 8th grade, David Doucette.
All right, hello and welcome back to another episode 17 of the ARE Podcast. And very excited, we are once again joined by Charlie Kletcha, and we have some exciting news. And we didn't even do, Charlie and I didn't even talk before this episode, so we just wanted to let it roll because a lot of cool stuff. And so welcome back.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
You're all clean shaven and clean haircut, and you know.
Got a conference coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm trying to look professional.
So we had you on a couple months ago when you were preparing for the ARE and you were doing the 7 and 7 campaign, and you spent. We'll do a brief recap because. If you listening to this one, check that last episode out, episode 16, where we interviewed you about your motivation and why you're doing this. And before we get to the results, I do want to, I guess, briefly just talk about your real-world experience for taking this exam. So how much real-world experience did you have before sitting for this thing?
I pretty much zero, actually. I have never worked in an architectural firm. The closest I've come is during grad school. I did a 5-month internship with Schuler Shook theater planners and architectural lighting designers. So I was working on contract docs, but it was kind of from the consultant side. But I have yet to spend a day in setting A.
And your architecture education background was a master's degree, correct?
Correct, yeah. 3-year MArch from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. My bachelor's was in theater production. Okay.
So, and you just thought it would be a wonderful idea for reasons we discussed in the previous episode to just knock this out in 7 days, not counting the weekends, of course. And how many weeks did you prepare for this?
It was about 7 weeks. I actually started my little video and blog series 7 weeks out from the first test. And that was about the same time I really started studying hard.
And you created the whole 7 and 7 campaign. You're the president of AIAS for another couple of days. Is that right? Or are you already done?
Yeah, about 2 weeks, yeah.
You got 2 weeks left. Okay. So here we are. You did the 7 and 7, and what were your expectations? You obviously used a variety of study sources. What were your expectations in how many you were hoping to pass?
I felt coming out of it. I felt pretty confident in passing 4. I was hoping for 5. Not because there were any that I felt like I bombed, but just sort of playing the odds. I assumed that even with the best laid plans and best preparations, I was not counting on passing them all in the first go around.
Right, and I mean, I myself was thinking, like, God, I hope he gets at least 4 out of 7. Like 4 out of 7 sounded good to me. And my own selfish interests are, one of the materials that you're using is ours, the architect exam prep stuff. So I'm like, oh my God, what if he does 0 out of 7? I'm thinking like, oh my God, but then I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. So I was secretly like 4 out of 7 sounded about right to me, just based on, everything going in. 'Cause you did this over, how many days before the weekend split?
I had 3 exams the first week. I had BS, BDCS, and structures Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then construction docs, PPP, site planning, and schematic the second week.
Oh, wow. So you did the harder ones first.
Yeah, I did. I knew I was setting myself a pretty big challenge anyway, so I figured I might as well go all out.
Wow, that's incredible. So we haven't said yet, but how many of those, of the 7 that you took, how many did you pass?
All 7. much to my own surprise.
Which is
I passed all 7 on the first go.
Which is just incredible. I mean, it's incredible on so many levels. And you only studied 7 weeks for all 7. And as you mentioned, with essentially zero architecture experience, so it does bring out, like, well, what does it say about all of this? The fact that you're able to study 7 weeks, take all 7, pass all 7. I will say right off the bat, it's that would not be the norm. I don't think most people could achieve that, even with many years of architectural experience.
Fair.
So, what was your secret?
Lots and lots of hard work. Not really much of a secret. I did have the advantage of having a number of resources at my disposal. Obviously, because this was a campaign of the AIAS, we drew a lot of attention for it. So I had to AIA's library of study prep materials. Kaplan is a sponsor of the AIAS. So I had just about every kind of resource out there. That didn't make it any easier to actually put in the hours. There is no shortcut to doing well on these exams. It really just takes the dedication to put in the hours and learn the material.
And what was your mindset going into this? Because obviously this, I guess, was on the bigger stage. You created this campaign. Is the campaign still going on, by the way?
Yeah, it is ongoing. The Indiegogo campaign itself has closed, but that was really just the first round of fundraising. But there is now a permanent page on our website at aias.org/pass, PASS. The fundraising is ongoing, and the first round of applications, or the applications will be open starting this fall. We'll award the first round of scholarships at our annual conference in San Francisco over New Year's.
Oh, cool. So that's AIAS.org/pass. So if you're listening to this, talk to your bosses, your firm owners, and get them to go to this website and contribute, because it's a great idea. They're trying to encourage people to just get in the game and take the exam. So I think it's very cool what you guys are doing.
I'm pretty excited about it.
And so you had that, and so people were watching you. It wasn't like you just got to hunker down, not say anything to anybody, and just say, hey, I'm just going to study for these 7 exams and take them. Like, people were watching you this whole time. You were blogging about it. You were doing videos about it. I mean, that had to be a lot of pressure.
It was. That was kind of in the back of my mind from the outset when we decided to do this and make it a campaign and use this as a way to promote this scholarship. I knew it was really going to put me under the magnifying glass. But that was kind of why all along the message was less about passing the exams and more about committing to taking them, just to getting started, to making a plan. And holding yourself to it, regardless of what the outcome is, because getting past that first exam, getting past that sort of zero barrier, is such a huge first step. If you let it linger on the horizon, this kind of looming unknown, it can sit there for years before you actually muster up the courage to get it done. So, getting past that first one is really what we're encouraging recent graduates to take on.
And I think that's important probably to your mental mindset, because I don't think you ever did go into this thinking like, oh my God, I'm going to pass all 7, because, Let's be honest. Nobody thought you were going to do that. Even if you're secretly thinking like, hey, I'm going to pass all 7, like people are like, no way, you know? But
I absolutely did not think that.
but to that point, like, I think it took a certain amount of pressure off of you, right? Because you weren't feeling like, oh, I got to pass all 7. Like, your message was, hey, I just want to help people get motivated to just take the exam, to just take the first one, to just get in the game. Because if you're not in the game, you can't even begin to win, you know?
Right.
And go ahead.
And frankly, I think there's a lot of advantages to doing it early, to doing it when you're fresh out of school. You're still kind of at testing mindset. You're still used to the sort of the rigors of preparing for something like this. The content you learned in school is still fresh in your mind, so especially things like structures that you don't necessarily see a lot of in practice. After school, you can knock those out. The better positioned you are as you enter the profession.
Yeah, and I think, I still have friends at my age who went to architecture school and still have not taken the exams, and it gets harder the older you get, the farther you move away from it. So yeah, just do it. Just get in the game. So let's talk about it's now day 1 of your exam. So you started with the harder exams first, and what was your thinking in that?
It was sort of based on just sort of the alignments in content area. I'd heard a lot of people say that CDS, PPP, and SPD had a lot of kind of similarities and overlap. So knowing I wanted to do those in one chunk, and I heard a lot of people suggest that schematic design should come last, the dual vignette thing. And so that really left the other 3, and it seemed like BDCS and BS, even if only in name, that some similarities and some overlap. To a certain extent, it was also driven by the duration of the exam itself and kind of my perceived difficulty based on how comfortable I felt with them. So rather than all the long ones first or all the short ones first, it was I built this nice kind of up and down curve where I had started with a reasonably short one, then longer one, and a shorter one. So it just made for a nice kind of rhythm to the exams.
What was your mental state after you took the first exam? After that first day, what were you thinking?
It was a huge relief. I remember coming home and my wife was there waiting for me, asking how it went, and just thinking I couldn't imagine having studied even just for as long as I did, that being it. I couldn't imagine at that point just taking one exam and then knowing the other 6 were just down the road somewhere. I came out of the exam very, very excited to go back the next day and keep at it. The weekend was a nice chance to kind of recalibrate, but there was something very gratifyingly epic about doing them all back to back like that, and walking out of that first exam. That was the biggest thing I thought was, all right, now that I know what this is like, I'm ready to charge through the other 6.
Did you feel like after that first exam that you passed, or did you not really? Not obviously, we didn't know, right? Because you got to wait for your results. But was that in your mind, like, oh my God, I hope I passed, or were you just more like, I'm jazzed to now be doing this thing. I can just knock these out over the next week.
No, I felt pretty good coming out of the first exam. Building systems, that was one of the ones I felt pretty reasonably comfortable with after the studying I had done, and it was a topic I enjoyed in school. So I walked out of that feeling reasonably confident, as confident as you can be in a situation like that.
And I imagine it must have been a relief, like you mentioned. Now you're sort of in it, and obviously we want to pass. That's the end goal, but just to be in it, just to be in the game, just to be playing the game. I mean, it's exciting to finally get there, because we got to prepare to get there, and that in and of itself is an achievement. Yeah,
those last few weeks before the exam started were definitely the hardest part, that waiting, knowing that I was, that first exam was imminent. That was the most stressful. So yeah, getting the first one done, then it really felt like, game on, let's do this.
And you're married with a full-time job, so it's not like you're just some swinging bachelor who has all this free time.
Right. Yeah, that was, thankfully, I guess this is the only scenario where I can say thankfully, but my wife is 1,000 miles away in Michigan. I'm based in D.C. here for the year. So I did have the luxury of zero social life outside of work, so that did make it easier to come home and hunker down and study most nights.
Okay, so you were, in that 7 weeks, you were pretty serious, you were pretty diligent with your studying. Okay, were you staying up late at night?
No, I had it pretty well broken out. I have about an hour and a half commute each way into the office, so I had a bus ride, and I had certain study resources and materials that I used on the bus. That got me about 2-3 hours a day, and then I'd come home after work and do another 2 or 3 hours. Weekends I'd put in longer days, but even there, I knew it was important not to burn out, so not to try and spend 12, 14 hours in a single day cramming, because that would just ruin everything I learned in that day. So it's important to make a realistic strategy.
Did you feel like you were approaching burnout, or did you feel like, looking back, over that 7 weeks, like you had it pretty balanced?
There were a couple times where it got more stressful than other periods. I don't think I was ever really on the cusp of burning out, but it's definitely a big thing to undertake, and that there were points where I questioned if this was a good life decision or not.
Right.
But there's also studying for all 7 at the same time. There's like we talked about, there's a lot of overlap between some of the exams. So in a certain sense, it actually kind of reduced how much I actually had to study, because I was effectively for all of them at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with SPD, PPP, and CDS, it's a well-known fact that they hone in a lot of similar topics, with SPD probably being the catch-all. But yeah, I think there is validity to taking them all around the same time. And frankly, with the new 60-day retake being reduced from 6 months, it's now 60 days. That's kind of like a no-brainer. I mean, that's almost a big gift, I think, on NCARB's part, to help encourage us to keep taking the exams even after we don't pass one. Yeah, that was of some consolation in planning this whole thing, was that whichever exams I didn't pass, I knew I could turn right around and kind of keep that momentum going. And just take another stab at it, however many were necessary. Turned out that was 0, but I was ready for a round 2 if I needed it. Yeah, and I think that, to me, when I started teaching the California Supplemental exam, which is for anybody that wants to get licensed in California after the AIAS, California you got to take their own exam, and it's difficult. But the point is that you get in the groove and you just do it. And some people, in fact, I think the pass rate is like 55% first time. And it is a 6-month wait period, which is a drag. But if you just stay in it and you stay with the mindset, I'm just going to get through it, you will get through it. It might take a little bit of time, but like once you get through it, you don't look back and be like, oh, it took me so many tries, and nobody asked you that. So you just got to keep going. It's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do to keep your mind healthy through this studying process?
Like I said, making sure to realistically schedule, downtime, mental downtime. Played a lot of Candy Crush between studies. Like you said, you really have to put yourself in a mental place where you have to want it enough to make the sacrifices necessary. So it means saying no to happy hour with coworkers. Sometimes it means maybe even missing a family reunion or something. But when you look back on that and say, yeah, I hunkered down for those 7 weeks, and then I was done with it. I never have to miss another thing for that reason again. It's all of your internal motivations and passions, and for me, it was worth everything I was giving up, and it paid off huge.
And it sounds like from the conversations that that we've had, you're clearly the glass is half full kind of person, and not the glass is half empty kind of person.
Tend to be.
You do tend to be. Yeah. Because let's face it, this is a mental game, and your mental state could have been like, everybody's watching me. I have no experience in an architecture office. I'm going to fail. I got no business doing this. This is a disaster. That easily could have been your mental state.
And those things all occurred to me. I just chose not to acknowledge them.
That's exactly it. It's like, I think fear is normal. We're all going to have fears, as you had those fears, but you weren't controlled by those fears, and you were more like, no, I'm going to get this done. This I want to help motivate other people, and whatever ones I don't pass the first time around, I'll just get them on the next go. So you were in that mental mindset to succeed. You just happened to do it all in one go.
Yeah. It was a risk from the outset, but especially with kind of the organization behind it, and it being this kind of broader public awareness, professional advancement campaign. The risk was absolutely worth it. I think I read a tweet today that said something like, you can't steal second if your foot's still on first. So take a risk and go for it.
That's exactly it. That's a good tweet. All right, so the first day is over. Now you're excited. You know what the game is. You take the 3 exams that week. On the weekend, did you study anymore, or you were just sort of just kind of relaxing?
A little of both. I wanted to make sure that I didn't need to cram at that point. So I was still pretty confident in the material. I did go back and review. I took a few more of the online multiple choice exam simulators, the OMSIs, and went back through the practice vignettes from NCARB just to kind of refresh. Used a couple flashcard sets, a couple of different flashcards just to quiz myself here and there, but did also spend some time relaxing. Because I was back home in Michigan to take the exams. I was with my wife, so we went out to dinner and relaxed on the couch a little bit and watched some TV. I knew, especially at that point, halfway through the exam, that anything that was going to add to my already reasonably tense stress level was not going to be helpful. So relaxing that weekend was an important kind of reset for the following week.
Oh, I didn't know you did that. And you took these in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I decided that if things went poorly, I wanted only my wife to come home and sob uncontrollably. Exactly.
which I think is a very actually serious and legitimate concern, because I think candidates can get in the mindset of they don't want to fail an exam, and because they don't want to fail, they don't take it. And that's why people keep putting this off, because they're scared to fail, and because they think if they fail an exam, now they got to tell their friends that they failed this exam, and their friends think like, well, you must suck as an architect. This exam has nothing to do with being a good architect. But all that mental stuff adds to this. So I think it's interesting that you did take it at home, with your wife and that support, and you did, and you weren't worried about, I guess, failing and breaking the news to her, right?
Right. No, she was incredibly supportive throughout. She was probably the first person to say from the get-go that I was going to pass all 7, which I took as, just kind words from someone who's clearly a little biased.
Yeah.
But no, it was again because this whole thing was kind of under the microscope. I knew regardless of how things went, everybody was about it anyway, so that there wasn't really a whole lot of pressure to even consider that as a will people find out. I already kind of knew that was inevitable.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to tell people they're preparing for this. They don't have to tell everybody, but kind of tell your close friends, tell your family, because you may need their help. You might need their help at some point, whether you have kids or whatever it is. You can reach out to them, and people will help and support you. So it's good to ask for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and frankly, that's back when they changed the exam format from once a year, 4 days straight, to the current system of scheduling individual exams whenever you want. That was that idea, that kind of concept of support sort of went away. There were some unintentional things that were lost when they made that shift. However, while meaning the intention of making the exam more flexible, it can be, unless you're proactive about finding a support system, it can be a pretty lonely road.
Right.
If you want to make it a very private thing, it's very easy to do that. But if you thrive on having a peer group to kind of hold each other accountable, you really have to go out and find that. And the AIA is a great resource for that. And there are a lot of some firms are big enough to have entire kind of study groups. And that's a great way to just sort of hold yourself accountable for the preparations you're making, people to celebrate with, people to console you if you don't do well. It can be a very valuable part of the equation, but it's something you have to go out and find.
Yeah, you got to search it out, and it is important because I think we can think like, oh, I'm the only one that's having these self-doubts, or I'm the only one that is having these feelings of being scared to fail. We all are. We're all scared to fail, but that we just don't let it stop us. Like you said, you had those fears as you're taking, preparing the 7 weeks. You had that self-doubt creep in, but that wasn't your overpowering thoughts. You had the more positive thoughts to sort of keep those at bay, but fear is normal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a big deal, and it's a difficult thing. It's not meant to be easy, but that's also if you're fresh out of school, everything about not doing things the easy way. So it's not unfamiliar territory.
No, I mean, architecture school is, I think, probably the most brutal experience anybody can go through. Doctors can claim their residency and all that crap, but, architecture school, it's tough. The hard work is done. By the time we get ready to take the AREs, the hard work is done. We've been through the hardest stuff. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so take me to that second week. You take your final exams. What was the last exam you took?
Schematic design was last.
Okay. And what did you feel when you walked out of the testing room after finishing that last one?
Oh, it was epic. It was I felt like I had just climbed a mountain, and especially with schematic design being last, everyone talks about that being a good last one because it's all graphic vignette. There's no questions.
Right.
For me, I found in preparing for that, I actually looked at that as one of the more challenging ones. I have a much easier time learning answers to questions than doing design, or even other vignettes that are more, here's information, translate it graphically into another form, whereas schematic design is all about designing from scratch. And so I went into that one a little nervous, but I killed it, I guess. I found it a lot easier than I expected it based on the practical vignettes I had done. So I walked out of that just on cloud nine, both about that specific exam and the fact that meant I was completely done and about to leave for Mexico.
Right, and you were going on vacation, which I think it's important too. Like, the end goal obviously is passing, right? The end goal is wanting to become a licensed architect. But that can't be the overpowering thing. Like, we got to just sort of be in the journey. We got to start taking the exams. And I would imagine your feelings when you walk out of that seventh exam, it probably wasn't about, oh my God, I hope I passed all 7. It was just about like, look what I just did over the past, 7 weeks. I created this goal and I just achieved it. I took the 7th exam. Like that in and of itself is a major accomplishment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you celebrated by going to Mexico.
I did. I actually had the one day I had in between my last exam and my flight for Mexico. I had 2 interviews for when I returned to Detroit in August. So it was a pretty rapid fire last exam, 2 interviews on vacation.
That is funny. And so when did you start thinking about, you finished the last exam, when did you start thinking about like, oh my God, I wonder how many I passed, or I hope I passed all 7, or I hope I passed 5. Like when did you start worrying about the results?
The day after, it occurred to me a couple of times. Thankfully, again, I had those interviews to kind of distract myself. That was a little bit intentional. And then, after that, on vacation with my wife and some friends, tried really hard not to think about it. But as the week went on, and I knew that that the results would start trickling in, it occurred to me more and more. And the following week, after I returned from my vacation, myself and our executive director were heading down to the NCARB annual meeting, which we were already attending, but because of the timing, that was where we decided to sort of unveil the results. So toward the end of my vacation and the early part of the following week, I really started thinking like, okay, I need to basically write a script in my head for all 8 scenarios that this could become. 0 out of 7, 1 out of 7, 2 out of 7.
Right.
I need to start thinking about how I'm going to react in any of these given scenarios, especially being that I was surrounded by all of the state licensing boards in the country.
So the results were unveiled publicly, basically?
Yep. Yeah, we had a table in the sort of resource area at the NCARB annual meeting, and what was that, Thursday morning? Wednesday? 10 a.m. I knew all of the results were in. I hadn't looked at them. So we kind of gathered some folks around, and I logged onto my NCARB and just scrolled down, and lo and behold, saw the 7 passes, and the room kind of exploded in celebration and got lots of high fives. It was pretty gratifying way to receive those results. I knew opening the results at the NCARB annual meeting was either going to be a great way to do things or like the most humiliating place to find out I did poorly. Right.
Yes, you're very brave, full of courage, but there's a lot to be said about that. What was your first response as you're scrolling down and basically you didn't see any fails? Like, what were you thinking?
I thought I was reading it wrong. I legit, because there's a lot of information on that line. Right. Name, the test date, the test ID, whatever.
Right.
So I was convinced I was looking at some different column of information. I was like, okay, no, that's the results. That's it. Right. They even said verified on the side, so I knew that was actually legitimate results. I was pretty stunned. I was in disbelief.
Wow. What were you, do you remember like what you were thinking as you were like scrolling down? Did you have a number in your mind like, oh, I hope it's 5 or 7, or were you just not even thinking that?
No, I was shaking and sweating and nervous and, surrounded by all of these, peers who I look up to, some of my most, respected mentors, right, in the room. So yeah, I was definitely kind of crossing my fingers in my pocket, thinking like, come on, 4 out of 7 is good. 5 out of 7 would be awesome. Right. 6 out of 7 would be a little frustrating, just because, come on,
to be that close. Yeah.
Falling short on 1 would be a little bit of a tease, but no, yeah. Then saw all 7 and yeah, was just floored.
And like, how many people were in the room?
A couple dozen. We were kind of tucked away in the corner There was a small crowd gathered around. There's some video of it up on our website. Nick, our executive director, was Periscope Live, which is apparently a new social media tool for live broadcasting on Twitter.
Okay.
And then holding my phone in the other hand to record it. So he fumbled them a little bit in the process of recording, but it's a pretty fun video. It gives a pretty shot of my reaction to the whole thing.
So who's the one that said, "Hey, you passed all 7"? Like, did you look at it and say, "Hey, I passed all 7," or was somebody over your shoulder like, "Hey, you passed all 7," and did they announce it or did you announce it?
Oh no, it was true to in keeping with the pressure I had given myself. It was up on a big screen. I had a computer in front of me, but the display was near a screen we had behind our table, so everybody could see as soon as I did.
Are you serious? So you're scrolling down and they're seeing on the big screen. You scroll down to your results.
Yep.
Oh my!
I couldn't have lied if I wanted to.
Wow, you are brave. Oh man, yeah, you had to be like sweaty palms and everything.
Oh yeah, you could. I think I say at some point in the video, like my hand is shaking. I can barely scroll.
Oh man, that is so cool. So then you guys kind of celebrated, and then how long ago was that?
Let's see, that was mid-June. So what day is it? About a month ago. Okay.
And you must have been on cloud 9 at that point. I mean, just...
Oh, yeah. I mean, for the rest of the conference, Dale McKinney, the NCARB past president now, pretty much immediately called me up on stage as soon as the general session kind of reconvened and congratulated. So the first congratulations I got was from the entire NCARB annual meeting attendance. So that felt pretty special. The whole rest of that trip, I got a lot of very kind words and support from some member board members and execs, and then of course social media. The AIAS started tweeting it immediately, and a lot of friends and professional associates immediately started blasting it out. So it was a pretty rewarding feeling. And I don't think that has anything to do with my position in the AIAS. I think it was just, like I said, I set myself this epic sort of battle to take on and got through it and then was rewarded with this kind of minor celebrity for a bit, which felt pretty great.
Yeah, you definitely must have been the big man on campus that day.
Yeah, a little bit. It was fun.
Yeah, I remember I found out, I saw one of the tweets and it was like my job dropped. I'm like, wait, because it's the hashtag 7 and 7. And so I had to like make sure I was reading it correctly. And it's like, no, 7 out of 7 or past all 7 or something. I'm like, wait, what? And that was like, immediately emailed you. I'm like, is that right? Like, crazy. So
surprised anyone.
And now you got a couple weeks left as president of the AIAS, and then you're moving back to Michigan, and you have a job.
I do, yeah. Accepted a position with Quinn Evans Architects. They are based in D.C. and Ann Arbor, Michigan, big office, and they have a kind of satellite studio in Detroit right now that they're looking to expand. So I'll be joining a team of 5 or 6 full-time employees right now as they work to grow that office and take advantage of some of the opportunity in Detroit. There's a lot of existing building stock there that provides some big opportunities to both for the city and for those that move in and take advantage of the opportunity.
And this is a big change for what you have been doing with the AIAS for the past year. Is this like a complete 180?
It's going to be an interesting transition. It's certainly a very different kind of job from what I'm doing. There are certain aspects of it that translate, kind of client relationships and those sort of things. But yeah, my day-to-day here does not really involve a whole lot of, drafting stair details or anything like that. So I've already started kind of brushing up on my Revit and my renderings and getting back into that mindset.
Wow. And you start there. Are you giving yourself a little vacation in between, or it's no?
I have my last official obligation before the end of my contract is the NCARB Licensing Advisors Summit out in San Diego, the end of July.
Okay.
And then my wife and I are taking a little road trip, going out to Yellowstone, going on a treasure hunt. And then I start at Quinn Evans on August 24th.
Oh, nice. Perfect. And then the last thing, let's talk about, I haven't asked you these ahead of time, so you're going to come off the top of your head, but I'm going to ask you top 5 tips for people that are preparing for the exam, any words of wisdom, encouragement. So top 5, what's the first one?
Top 5 tips. Just do it.
Okay, number 1, just do it.
Commit. Yeah. Commit. If you're thinking about taking the exams or preparing but haven't scheduled yet, just schedule one. Commit to it. Give yourself enough time. And then hold yourself to that. Don't reschedule it. Don't let excuses get in the way. Just, if you fail, so what? At least now you know what the exam is like. You can go back 2 months later and try it again. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So number 1, schedule it. So if you're listening to this right now, just pause it and just schedule your exam. Like, don't even, just do it. Just schedule one.
Give yourself a deadline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So number 1, commit, schedule it. Number 2?
Number 2, I think set realistic goals for your time management. So actually go through your calendar for however long you have until that test, and block out sets of blocks of time with specific study strategies in place. If you want to work on vignettes after work and question banks on the weekends, or this week I'm going to study masonry, week is wood, week after that is steel. Make a plan for how you're going to get through everything you need to get through by the time you take the test.
Right. So you're basically planning for your success. So number 2, make a plan, make a study plan. And it seems to be, I think, word on the street, most people take about 4 weeks per division. That's loosely based, but just to give somebody an idea, you don't need to spend 4 months on one exam. If it's taking you 4 months for one exam, something's wrong with your time management, your commitment level, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, so number 1, commit and schedule. Number 2 is to plan it, plan out your strategy. What would number 3 be?
Number 3, I would say define, I guess. Identify what types of studying work best for you, and then find multiple sources that fit with that strategy. So if you can read a book cover to cover and retain all of that, find a couple of different study guides that you can read so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. If you're more a video person, find a couple of different videos. If it's practice exams, whatever it is, figure out what works best for you, and then find multiple sources for that study style.
That's a good point. And to that point, let's say I haven't taken any exams yet. I'm not really sure what study style works for me. Just buy some materials, take an exam, and figure it out. And then you'll be like, well, that one didn't really work, or that did work. Don't sit there and be like, well, I don't really know what works for me, so I'm not going to take the exam. Just do it. It's a process, an experiment, and as we get into it, we revise our study style, so I like that one. So number 3, identifying or being aware of sort of your own study style and your habits, and seeking out, a plan and products to help you achieve that. So what would number 4 be?
Number 4, get help, or I guess find a group. If, like I said, it can be a very lonely road if you let it be. But whether it's a group to study with, or just a group of people who know what you're going through and can consistently give you support and encouragement. Bring other people to your process to hold you accountable and also, prop you up when you need a little encouragement.
Yeah, and I think helping you be accountable is important too. So it doesn't even have to be, because not everybody likes to actually study in a group, and right. We don't need to do that. But belonging to a group, whether we have weekly Skype sessions or something to just hold us accountable, to be like, hey, would you work on this week, or this week I'm going to work on this. Okay, next week, and so just having some support and some help. So it's not such a lonely experience, because this whole process can be an enjoyable process, and hopefully it is, and hopefully we learn stuff along the way. So it shouldn't be a big sort of mental drain. Hopefully we're excited about this process, and we look forward to it. Much like you did after you took that first exam on the first day, you were really excited to take the next 6 exams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, number 5.
Number 5, relax. Schedule downtime. Find a way to turn your brain off when you've put in the time and stuck to your study schedule. Build into that some time to turn your brain off. Schedule some sort of reward for yourself after you get through the exam. When you schedule the exam, I was able to take a week-long vacation afterwards because I'd saved up all year. But give yourself some sort of reward. Give yourself some, before you even get the results, give yourself some way to recognize what you've just accomplished, regardless of how well you did.
Yeah, that's exact. I like that one a lot. I like the relax, and I like the idea of acknowledging, preparing for, and taking an exam is in and of itself accomplishment, and we should reward ourselves that. We should not let the results dictate how we feel. It's like, okay, if we fail, 60 days, we'll try it again. But at the end of the day, and this is what I tell people too, it's not about passing. Again, it's the end goal. But it's about just doing the best you can and legitimately making a concerted effort and taking the exam and just letting the chips fall where they may. And that's all anybody can ask for. It's like, it's cliche, but it's true. It's like, just do your best. And eventually you get through it. Mm-hmm. So, boy, I'm still 7 and 7. You're gonna go down in like NCARB, lore.
I did hear that I was the first. There was some record before the shortest anyone had done, all 7, which is only since 4.0 rolled out. It was 9 before that.
Right.
So I think I've set a new record for that, but that's about to go away anyway as they transition to 5.0. It's only 6 exams, so
yeah, exactly.
It'll be short-lived.
It'll be short-lived, and you'll quickly be forgotten, and people will be on to the next thing. So listen, man, this has been great. It's inspiring and encouraging, and I think you have brung awareness. And hopefully inspired people to just take that first exam. Because
most that I can hope for.
Yeah, just get in the game. And what was it was AIAS.org/pass to contribute to the scholarship.
Yeah.
And how do people apply to the scholarship?
There'll be an application posted in probably early August.
Okay.
Fairly straightforward, basic information. It is a reimbursement, the scholarship, so you have to have gotten a pass notification from NCARB, so you include that, and then a short essay, just kind of talking about your experience. Because of the first year of the scholarship, we're still kind of feeling out, how much support we get in contributions, and then how many people apply in any given year. So we just want to have some subjective criteria to select the recipients if there are an overwhelming number applying for it.
Right. And once again, the goal there is to just get people taking their first exam, just get them in the game so then they can start to, start moving forward in their architecture careers, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, all right, man, this is great. You're going to have a great time with the new job, actually working now in an architecture firm, which is exciting.
Looking forward to it.
When do you get your license?
It'll be about 2.5 years to get through. If I'm pretty diligent about the IDP, about 2.5 years.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. You still got your IDP left. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Michigan did not accept the IDP streamline, so I don't get the advantage of the reduced overall number. I still got to do all 5,600.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm. Which I'm fine with. If you offered me the stamp today, I would not take it. I'm looking forward to spending a few years actually learning the profession, on the ground in an office. I'm not in any rush to get that license.
Exactly. Yeah. That's interesting, Michigan. Yeah, so July 1st, right? The IDP streamlining went into effect. It went was it 3,200 hours? It went down to 3,400.
3,740, I think.
3,740. But as Charlie just mentioned, Michigan is one of the states that is, I guess, not recognizing the streamlining. So just check with your state.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to your point, whether it's 37 and change or 5,600, it's about getting the hours and the experience and all of that good stuff too. But to Charlie's credit, he didn't wait till he was done IDP, and he didn't have to. So, we can remove a lot of these hurdles of why we talk ourselves into, I can't sit for the exam now, or I'm not ready to sit for it. I'll do it next month, or, it's like, do it today. Just schedule the exam and take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool, Charlie. Definitely keep in touch. We'll definitely have you on again and see how you're liking the architecture firm life after you get settled in there.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening to the ARE Podcast. Be sure to visit architectexamprep.com and check out our other podcast episodes, video tips, and the ARE blog.